At the beginning of Lent, we were invited on Ash Wednesday to turn away from sin and be faithful to the gospel. But sometimes it's probably helpful to actually drill down a little bit. What does the Bible mean when it talks about sin? So for a start, there are three main words that we find in both the Hebrew scriptures and in the New Testament that refer to this experience, this reality of sin. The first word is the most generic and the most common, the word that we normally translate in English as sin. And that is this experience of missing the mark, of not being able to enter into the reality of what we were called to be, called to love, called to life. So if a marksman is pointing their arrow and they miss the target, that is this experience of kata. That's the word in Hebrew, or hamatia in Greek. That's the experience of missing the mark, of not being as loving as we were intended to be, as not fulfilling our purpose of what God called us to be. The second word that is used is the word iniquity. And that refers to this experience of something that is just not the way that it was meant to be. So when you build a road, it makes much more sense to build a road that is straight and level. But sometimes, especially in the old days, like growing up in the country, there were many roads like this where they simply just put it where the cows or the horses would go. And so it followed the curves, the topography of the hills. It went down into the gullies, came up over the hills. There wasn't much attempt to actually straighten that road out. And so this experience of kata, or iniquity, is this sense of being something that's crooked. It's not the way that it was originally intended. The third word that we find in Scripture to refer to sin presumes a relationship between friends, between neighbors, in families, or between countries and nations. And it's that sense of trust that is broken or breached. So if you go away on holidays and something is stolen from your home, if you don't know the person who steals, then that's just simply called robbery. But if you know the person, if it's your neighbor who steals that thing from your house, that is called transgression. And it's the word pesha in Hebrew. When you can presume, or should be able to presume, that you can rely on someone, that there is a friendship, a trust that has been built up, and that trust is broken, that's when pesha, transgression, comes in. And we can see all three of those different experiences at work within our own lives. But we're also invited to experience God calling us back, calling us to the truth of who we are. And we hear that especially in the parable that Jesus tells today. The well-known story of the prodigal son, the lost son, the merciful father. It's got many different names over the years because it's such a profoundly beautiful story of loss and being found. Both sons are involved in this. The fact that the youngest son rejects and rebels against the father suggests that he experiences the father in a very authoritarian way, that he doesn't have this sense of freedom in that relationship with the father. And so he experiences this need to go and to break free, to tell the father, "You are as good as dead in my eyes." He sells all of the possessions necessary for the younger son to achieve this, and the younger son is then free to go and to spend this money, and he does it with great prodigality. He's able to be wasteful with the resources that are available to him. And then, at some point, he reaches this place of despair. In the 12 steps, we call it that place of hitting rock bottom, not being able to experience the freedom and the life of God. And so, in that place, looking around the pigsty that he's in, he realizes that even the servants back home get more food than he has right now. And so he makes that decision. I will teshuvah. I will go back home. I will return from this place of deprivation and beg my father to ask him, will you let me be at least your servant, your slave, once again. And so he begins that journey, practicing within his head all of the routine, all of the lines that he's going to deliver. But as he approaches the homestead, the father is scanning the horizon, looking for his son. He hasn't lost hope. Even when he heard news that there was a famine in the place that he was most likely to have gone, he clung to this possibility that the son might still be alive. And as he sees him, we can imagine that moment. Could that possibly be? Could that be my son? And yes, once he made that recognition, he abandons all the propriety and begins to run to greet his son, because the father wants to embrace the son, to give him everything that he can. And so he clothes him with the garment that is actually the right of the older son to possess that. He puts the ring on his finger, sandals on his feet, to reclaim him, to say, you were lost, but now you are found. The problem, though, enters in as they prepare for the feast, as the fattened calf is killed, as the party is prepared, that the father is forgetful that he has two sons, that he needs to go and to tell the older brother as well that the son that was lost has now been found, to allow him to share in the celebrations as well. He neglects the older son. I think the older son has every right to be angry at this point, because yes, he's slaved away throughout this whole experience, and the father didn't have the sensibility, the awareness, the emotional intelligence, we might say, to be able to recognize what the need of the older son was as well. But he has the celebration, he has the party, and even the older son eventually comes and, we hope, joins in the celebration. Where are we in our experience of sin? Is there any of those experiences of transgression or iniquity? Any of those moments when we've broken the trust and the hope that others have placed upon us? Is there that sense that we've missed the mark, that we haven't been as loving as the Lord has invited us to be? And can we go during the rest of these days of Lent into a deeper experience of relying on God, letting His love and mercy call us and invite us more deeply into the place of the Father? Can we experience the tenderness of His love, calling us to be free, to come on home, to come and celebrate, come and join in the party of life, and allow God in His goodness to call us into freedom and in life?